Well. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Doc from North America. Nothing particular jumping out this morning when it comes to stories. The stories seem to be all the same, but we are seeing, the Federal Reserve obviously jumping in and helping out. I imagine ADP came out, and ADP showed half the amount of jobs that they were expecting. So their actual was like over 600,000. What they were hoping, I'm sorry, their prediction was over 600,000, and their actual was 300 plus thousand. So 50% drop in what they were thinking, and the first thing obviously you see is the stock market start to lift up again. That's why we have it on there, just for the fun of it, if nothing else. It's just like, does this ever stop? I mean, honestly, it just goes on and on and on. But anyway, you can see underneath it, you can see the J4X. And you can see the dollar is dropping. Even the ETF this morning is flirting underneath the weekly sell number, and at the same time, it's pushing itself into a daily sell. Now, we're going to drift over to the euro, because the euro itself is a little of a... Oh, let's do this too. Let's go to J4, go to Chicago Quant and put the Swiss on there just to get a better flavor for it. Because, like I said, the Hinky Ashies are about 4 to 6 hours behind. Now you can see there, it's pretty close. It's a lot more unchanged. You see right there, just very edgy. You can see our work is trying to lift up. But overall, the J4X shows the value of it all, the way it's been moving down. And we've been in a sell since right here on the 23rd. That week it closed in a sell. So you can see the pressure is on, on the dollar. The dollar is trying to press down. Now let's take a look at something like, let me go over to chat line too. You double check the chat line. We shall go there right now. There we go. And we're heading for chat line, so if anybody's saying or asking anything, we'll see it in a few seconds here. And it's probably the same thing. We've seen the euro, you can see on the fact check spreadsheet over here with the euro. So we move that over like that. There we are. Line 14. It did come in a daily sell. It's in a weekly sell, but it's really trying to get into the buy. Whereas the cable jumped into the weekly buy last week, and I believe it's flirting with the daily buy today. So, we're seeing that that strength. We're seeing that action in the cable a little bit more than we're seeing it in the euro itself. There we are. No questions. It's kind of quiet again at the middle of the summer. So, there's Middle Age. How you doing? Can't see, Doc. Which part can't you see? Needs to come down a little bit more. I see what you're saying. Yes. Let's do that. Let me entertain you. Let me make you smile. See how that is. There it comes. And a little bit more. A little bit more. Let's try one more push down, I imagine. Yes, let's do that. La 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 la. There we go. This will give you even a little bit more action. And this is, we're looking at the dollar Swiss through the Chicago Quant on that. And that's where we're at. And then when we look at it here on the J4X, you can see that same drifting down. Like I always say, if you can't tune into Doc and you want to see something relatively live, this is the way to go with the J4X. That's the gist of it all. In other words, the pressure is definitely on the dollar. We're seeing the same thing in the metals complex. The pressure is on the upside in the metals complex, and you know how we feel about that. I mean, the Federal Reserve does not want to see metals go up, and guess what? They don't go up. I mean, so right now, this inflation event that's going on, it has to be putting more and more pressure on money managers to at least step up and buy 1% of their portfolio in gold or something of that nature. And so we're probably seeing more and more buying in the metals complex, and the Fed will probably allow a certain amount to go on just to make it look like, in this pretend world by the buyer of last resort, who is the Fed, that we'll see a little positive action. Matter of fact, let's show you what it looks like in the metals complex right now. Just due to the fact that they're like a currency. Also, let's first jump over to the euro. Let's jump over to the euro because I want to see if it's finally getting into the daily buy today. It's trying, I can tell you that. It is trying. Oh, look at it. Hinky Ashy's throwing down. And the line is trying to dip more. We went into the sell there yesterday. Let's widen this out. You can see it on the Chicago stuff. Today it is lifting up, and we are above our numbers. And you can see here on the Hinky Ashy, still red. It'll be that way for a couple more hours. And you can see the white line is holding on to the dashed line, holding above it. So the pressure is on there. When looking at the metals complex, right here, which is well worth looking at, there it is right there. Let's move that over like so. There we go. And you can see here the gold, showing 3 days now of buying, and the weekly is trying to lift up. I mean, it is battling, that's for sure. And we see the same thing going on in the silver complex right there. The weekly itself is just skimming. Look at that. Look at the number. Minus 0.04. It's just skimming along, trying to get into the daily buy, or the weekly buy with the daily buy. I said to Robin yesterday, I figured that if this thing would get into the 26s, like 26.30, 26.20, maybe 40, maybe we'll get that weekly up into that. And that's where we are at the moment, is just watching this thing just kind of edge its way. It's been doing that for months now. We've been in a sell since, was that May, mid-May. So maybe now we'll see ourselves slowly get into this. Again, buyer of last resort, and also the seller of last resort. The Federal Reserve, they don't like the idea of the metals complex going up in value. They like to keep it down low because that's what people say. I guess there's superficial people out there in the financial industry who go, well, if things are really that bad, why don't we see gold and silver go up? I mean, that's like some type of default. That could be literally in their manifesto, their incorporation manifesto. So they have to follow their rules that they're incorporated to. So they can sit there and go, well, look, gold and silver is not even near all-time highs. What's the difference? This is just how does the Fed call it? Transitory. This is just transitory. It's just not meaningful yet. And the White House says it over and over, but the American population is totally frustrated with it because obviously Mr. Biden is dropping even more in the polls, and you got to figure that he has all the news supporting him, all the news in the United States, the mainstream news standing by him, all the mainstream news propping him up, and he's still threatening the 50 percentile. So you have to imagine the guy probably has only like 35% at best approval rating, but that's where we're at. We just shake our heads at the whole thing. So now you can see there, that's how the euro is going. Let's see how the cable is doing. And here's the British pound. It's trying to get into that daily buy. Also, we got a red and a green. We got the volatility going on. Obviously, you can't be short because we're in a weekly buy from last week. So you don't want to be short in this thing. And let's take a look at it right here. Right there. And there is the British pound, flirting around the mid 139-ish. Two hinky greens. The daily is trying to push south, but it's kind of stalled there. You can see on ours, Let's see, we have to switch that to there. There we are. And on ours, you can see it's holding up pretty well, pushing through. You know, it's going to be definitely, you know, pushing into the buy here with this action, and we're in the weekly buy at the same time. So, you know, you can see the momentum and the direction that's aimed in this product. All right, that is the three majors to start off with. Is it three? Yes, Swiss, Euro, and cable. And so we're seeing the dollar is weakening. The issue is showing up, and you're seeing they're buying the metals. The metals are being lifted. So, you know, it's a combination of all that put together. Tells us that there is pressure there. And then, obviously, you can see the U.S. stock market, which hesitates here and there. But you see Dow Jones Industrial Average is down about 106 points. You see the NASDAQ 100 or Tech 100 on Dukascopy is down about 14.5, 15. And you can see the S&P 500 right there, down about 11.5. So, you know, it's holding up. And then when we go and actually look at those things on a daily basis, let's do that. Let's go to the daily basis on that too. Just to get a flavor of our overall marketplace today. Let's see, right there. There's the NASDAQ. You see it's flirting with the sell. But look at the weekly. The weekly is very firm. Well, one thing can be said about it all is that the green line has broken the time manifold there. And when it comes to the euro, I'm sorry, not the euro, the S&P 500, same situation. It's breaking down. It's tightening up. That's usually a sign of action like this to come. And you can see this is trying. The weekly is trying, and that key word is trying, because it's not happening. You know, they just the longer term money just laughs at that probably and says, "Who cares?" Now you can see here the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which looked like it almost made it into the buy yesterday, has rolled over again. So we can see here the pressure is on that, and this is also backing off at the same time. But again, all three of these stock indices are in buys. And then we slide over to, well, we're here, we might as well. Where's it at? Right there. You can see a couple days in a sell now in the NASDAQ one, not the NASDAQ, the, what do they call it, the Russell 2000. And at the same time, it was trying to pierce up at one point here the last couple days. And sure enough, it's starting to roll over again, having some issues. But still aiming for that direction to try to get into the buy. Maybe the Federal Reserve heard that story. There was like I mentioned it yesterday. There's been some institutions talking like if we start to see the NASDAQ 100, not the NASDAQ 100, the Russell 2000 bottom and start to go after all-time highs, we know that you can buy the big stocks, that type of attitude. And so that is the challenge of it all, And I guess that's where we're going to basically be for a while, is that, with the Federal Reserve being able to do what it wants to do whenever it wants to do it, makes it a little hard to, take the fundamentals and try to make them the decision-making process. If you're a money manager and you're incorporated and you have to invest public money, well, yes, or private money, yes. But if you're just a regular investor, then fundamentals can be very dangerous. I mean, follow the Fed. That's pretty much what you want to do. You want to stay with the Fed. If the Fed wants to be long, then be long. If the Fed lets the markets roll over and go into a sell, then you can be short. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. Our numbers match the Fed constantly. I think they're using my numbers, honestly. I've been thinking of that for half a decade now. I see too many things that occur when my math turns. Let's see. Let's jump over to now. We'll slide over to the Turkish lira. Get back into the currency arena. And right there's the dollar Turkish lira. I saw that this morning. I actually looked this morning. So it's trying to perk up again, but look at the weekly here. It needs to really get a shot in the arm. It needs to get going with some energy. Then we slide over to, where's it at? Right there, Euro Turkish lira. And it's doing the same thing. You can see it's trying to lift up. We got a volatility signal. And again, the weekly, just like in the dollar situation, is holding it down. So the action that we're seeing in the Turkish lira is not screaming like, oh, geez, I need to, blah, blah, blah. You know, in other words, I need to be long or be short. This thing seems to be trapped in a sideways action in a positive way for the population of Turkey. So, you know, it would be nice to see it stay like that. I mean, they've seen their currency go from 1.5 to I don't even know what let's take a look at, let's go to J4X and take a look at the Euro Turkish lira pairs trade on a monthly basis or even a quarterly basis. But let's go with a monthly for sure. When was it down to, it was down at 1.5 on a dollar as Mr. Aragon joined the Parliament as Speaker or President or something of that nature. And yeah, so it was the same situation. During the Aragon era, we've seen this product go from 1 to 10. Ow! Can anybody say ow? Ouch! Yeah, that's what that's all about. So that's what we're watching at the moment is we see that pressure on the Turkish lira, and that's a good thing. It needs to go down. We need to see it go down for the population of Turkey. We don't want to see them getting punished by enormous. Can you imagine the inflation concept that is? You know, your currency goes from like 1.25, 1.5 to 10. That's like 1,000 times in inflation. It's like ouch. That's 10 times. You know, it goes to 2, it's 50%, and then another 2 to 4, another 100. That's 100%. When we forget the 50%, it's 100%. And then it goes from 4 to 8. My God, and then it stalls out in the tens. Ouch. There's a lot of issues with the currency. So let's see now. I guess that's about it we can say about that. Let's see. Now let's drift over to the Canadian. We like to see the Canadian and how it acts with the. Let's fix this too. The Canadian kind of follows the trend. Lately it has not, but overall the Canadian can follow the trend. And so there we are right there. You see the power of it in the sense of the Canadian is kind of moving up. It's kind of flattish today. You see it's in a daily buy for one full day, trying to go for a second. That's line 20. Let's put the line in there too. Right there. And the weekly's been in a buy since over in here. And so normally, let's see, Turkish lira is making money against the dollar, and we were watching the Canadian lose money against the dollar. So that's a little of a surprise, just a tad of a surprise. And then where do we go from there? I guess usually we looked at the energies, and gold and silver. So we've done that already. We've looked at gold and silver. And let's go take a look at crude oil. And at the same time, move this to that. There we are. And there is crude. And it's moving down again. We have numbers out today too in about 2 hours. 2.5, less than 2 hours now. 1 hour and 50 minutes. And so, oil is moving down. I guess you would think, does oil used to be an inflation fighter, I guess you could say, or participate with the inflation battle, in the sense that what it does is it goes, you would assume that they take it up when inflation is kicking up. And who knows, again, how much the Fed can get away with. I mean, they can get away with a lot. They can do a lot right now. So that's the pressure you see there. Um, Nothing else to be said about the Canadian. The Canadian seems to be, trapped in its own little universe there. Let's go back to it really quick, and that's where it is with the crude. Now the Canadian, it's in that weekly buy from down in here, and it's made a nice run, and it has that look like it's trying to make even more of a run. It's hard to say. I would think it's stalled. It's the dead of the middle of the summer. That's why I think the broadcast too has lower amount of population on it. They go. I do see that they're watching it on repeat. On the YouTube. But the actual participants right now is the dead of summer. Everybody's like trying to figure out how to enjoy the last 3 or 4 weeks in the northern hemisphere. So I'm not expecting a lot of participation here. Would love it if someone would chime in. I feel like I need to do this silent good. Was it the do good? Silent do good? Ben Franklin had a newspaper, and for those that might know who Ben Franklin are, and Ben Franklin had a newspaper, and he had silence good doer or something like that. He had someone writing letters into the newspaper so that he could answer them. In the end result, we found out that it was him, instigating dialogue. And so in many ways, I feel like this month I have to do the same thing. All of a sudden you're going to see like Super Trader 22 or, I love Forex, number 9, And it'll be me asking questions. Geez, what do you think of this one? And I go and throw that one up, and so forth and so on. All right, just a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. All right, so now we've gone through the cable and the euro and the dollar and so forth, and we are eyeballing Canadian, and we've watched the way gold is moving against it, and we're watching the way silver is moving with it, or both of them are moving with it, and at the same time we're seeing crude oil still backing off. So now what we'll do is we'll drift back over to, again, to the currency complex, and we'll go right to the South African rand, and because of the way we're seeing gold, you have to assume this thing is going down in value, and sure enough it is, right there. And it's flirting with its weekly sell, which is, good thing there. And let's see, what else can we say about all that? I guess not much. Alright, so what we'll do now is we'll drift over to, where do we go from there? We go to the ruble. And there's the ruble, same situation. And at the same time, you can see it's playing with the weekly sell right there. Let's see, background, I get that. There we are. Yeah, so that's flirting with a weekly sell. That pressure is on. And let's see, what else we got going on there? Let's see, this is ruble. It's been in the daily sell from up in here. It's slowly drifting again. Maybe it'll go below the 72 again. Maybe that's the next stop. Hard to say, really. We just follow the math. So, I mean, to predict something into the future like that is tough, except for we know right now is that right at this moment, the last 2 days, the weekly is below the sell number. It's below that zero line. So that pressure is on there. I have no idea what Biden is going to do tomorrow morning with the Russian Federation. I know that he's kicking out, another 24 diplomats going into September or something like that. He's giving them like 90 days notice or 60 days notice or something of that nature. So we do know that part. And in many ways, you would think that's like a badge of courage. If you're getting kicked out of the United States by Joe Biden, that means a lot, because he seems to only want to take a certain type of person into the country on his own. But anyway, that's what that is. And now we jump over to the yen. You can see the yen, same situation, going down against the dollar. So it's becoming more valuable again. More yen to the dollar. And this is going on a second week of the weekly sell. This is the fourth major. So it's yen and British pound and euro and Swiss. There are the four majors. Oh, and Canadian. There are five majors against the dollar. So that is that. And you can see, what else do we have to talk about when it comes to the yen? Not much. It's just been a daily sell since here. And let's see what it looks like on J4X. Right there, I see it. I imagine it's a sea of red. Yep, see that? It's a sea of red. So it's giving you a good general direction. This little system we have set up on the J4X is a good system. It gives you a heads up, a good generality. Better watching that than watching MACD. And watching two stochastics battle with each other and the Hinky-Ashi, it will give you a decent flavor of where things are. Alright, now we zip over to the Mexican peso. There it is right there. You can see here, rolling down, making the break there. Matter of fact, it didn't even get into a buy. So it's been in a sell since here. It's flirting with the weekly sell right there on the edge. We'll see what kind of pressure is. I think someone asked for the RSI. That's why you see the RSI down at the bottom. We don't pay attention to it, but it's some people do, and so we tried to give them an idea of what's the difference between Doc's math and the RSI. And let me just see what the RSI is playing too, also at the same time. Properties. Yeah, see, it's following. That's a daily. So the RSI is looking at the daily, so you can see here, it did identify the top, just like our math identified it, where it went into the sell right here on the daily basis, and then joined in by the end of the week in a sell here. And it's pretty much been a sideways up action for a weekly sell. We did get a loud voice here, told us that we were going to get a little good action from that, and also told you at the end of it to get out. And now we're back into it again. We're in that buy again, but the thing is that you don't see it really going anywhere. It's not going anywhere at all. And so the peso has been a very interesting, solid currency. It's starting to look like the zloty, really solid. Then from there we let's see, we did yen and ruble, South African rand, and what is this? This is the Mexican peso. So we've done the four that we normally look at, and we're done that. Now we kind of finished off the currency sector in the first half hour. It's nothing to go back and look at any one of those again. So if someone just goes, oh shoot, I need to see what Doc's math says, and we can go check that out. But from there, did I show us the daily stock indices? I don't think we did. So let's take a peek at that again. And there's the crude oil. And we can also take a look at nat gas while we're here. Right there. And then we'll take a look at some of the stock indices. And you can see here the strength. Is that right? Is that August? I think we need to be in September. Let's fix that. While we're here, let's fix it. Instrument. There it is right there. Because I don't, right there. There we go. And so you can see here, it tried to perk its head up into a buy right there, and then went up. So it was an easy winner chicken dinner there. And you can see, right now we're not seeing any real early trading. Let's give it a refresh. Maybe it'll spit it out. Just double check what we have there. Aha! Aha! There we are. And tried to go into the sell yesterday, and it looks like it. Let's see, I don't think we've been updating this. We don't have anybody following it. So it goes into the buy there. Gets into a sell here, but you can't take the short. So all you can do is have a profit. And sure enough, within one day, it's trying to turn back up again. You can see that right there. It's trying to get it back into the daily buy again. So being in a weekly buy, I guess we're going to go even higher. And you know, I think we've looked on Dukascopy a few times. We can look at it again. Where could this go? You know how people like to look at resistance areas and highs and lows and so forth. We can do the same thing. You know, it's not that complicated. You know, it just screams on the piece of paper there, or in this case, a chart. And let's find it. Nat gas, copper, like crude. I know there's a natural gas product. There it is, there it is. Yep, that's it right there. So let's take a look at it on a monthly basis and see if we can get a flavor of where this thing might try to roam up to. So we're looking at the, what is that? That is the 450 area maybe? Maybe we will see this 450 area. You know, at least right up into the well, it could be as much as 480s. Could be riding up into that area. So that's a good possibility to see the natural gas keep on lifting with itself. I mean, it's what now? That's line 10 on the fact check spreadsheet. You can see it's 16 weeks in a buy. 16 weeks. Look. Fantastic, man. Fantastic. All right, let's see. Also, with the oil, let me just say something about the oil situation. Let me fix this on the J4X. But on the oil situation, or the energy situation, you could say, one of the things that I just had it in the back of my mind, I don't know where to go. Oh, copper. I want to take a look at copper. I know China's having its issues, and China is a big player in the copper market. And right there, there's September copper. As you can see, it's still moving down. We've been in a sell from here. It's just breaking down on the weekly. Maybe this is some type of sell-off, you know, something real. And I was listening to was it Jamie Dimon from JPM, and he was saying, you know, unprecedented losses in Japan, not Japan, I'm sorry, China. You know, 400 billion over the X amount of years. It's a lot of money to lose for a small country. Well, it's a physically large populated country, but small economically. You know, it's just tied with Japan and Germany or the European Union and so forth. They say it's the second largest, you know, economy in the world, but I think that's more of a population thing than it is a dollar, because I know that the average income there is like $12,000 a year. I mean, the Commonwealth has like $13,000 a year, and they have twice the population. So, you know, there's a lot to be said about those type of numbers and how it's massaged and pretended by the media. All right, so that basically leaves us how the Mexican peso was doing, and we see the metals complex, copper going in the inverse relationship to the silver at the moment. All right, now let's drift over to, I wanted to get to the stock indices. I think we talked about them real quick. We saw this action going on here, and we said the weeklies are really fighting to hold up. So I guess that's where we are at the moment with all four of the American indices. They are fighting to go down. You know, you can see the very short term, the daily is showing weakness. And as we showed you a little while ago, the Dow Jones Industrial Average has, you know, been in a sell for 5 or 6 days or something like that. So we're not really getting that much positive action, and we're not getting that much negative action. So, in other words, the central bank wants it to stay firm, it's going to stay firm. And since we don't have volatility funds anymore, we're selling the daylights out of the stock indices. That's what happened back in March and February of 2020, I'm sorry. 2020 is that the volatility funds got trapped and they had to cover. And the only way you can cover a short option, a short put in particular, is to just sell blindly the underlying product. So they had no choice, and that's why we saw a Dow Jones Industrial Average flying from 1,000 up to 1,000 down over and over for weeks. And that was the specific reason, as the volatility funds all went out of business. There were 5 of them, and 3 of them went bankrupt, and 2 were able to close. So they were all hoping to be able to just close. That's why they were selling at the market such large sizes. They were hoping that it would stall out, but it didn't stall out until they were gone. It's like as if the Federal Reserve pushed them to go out. That's that arranged marriage thing that they do, like they did with HSBC and Citi and Deutsche Bank and Lloyd's of London and so forth, and Merrill Lynch and so forth and so on. All right. So we've done the stock indices, and we've done all the currencies, and we've looked at all the metals, and we're just rolling along here with like 20 some odd minutes to go still. So what can we go and look at today more than anything else? Maybe a little intraday action. You can see right here. Here's the Dow Jones Industrial Average. You can see we're using both the gas and the gas lines. I like that gas kind of because it reminds me of the old Bollinger days. And you can see the strength is trying to come in. And you can see the 3 little green dots there in the short-term trading. But overall, it's in a big, long downtrend for the last 6 hours. And I'd imagine Europe is probably a little unhappy about the idea of ADP missing by so much. I mean, they expect the United States to pull everybody out of the world, what would be the world calamity / the world, what's that word that I'm looking for here? Malaise, where it's kind of like stumbling and going in no direction and looking for a direction, and they're hoping that the Americans are going to show us the direction. Not Mr. Biden's administration. They're not into that. And then, let's see what else we got going on here. And then the S&P, you can see right there, there's the S&P. Same situation. Towards the lows of the day, or the short day that we've been in so far, U.S. is still not going to be open for another 21 minutes. So you see the pressure is a little bit stalled out down in here. We'll see if some money comes in. There's also a PMI report coming out in about 36 minutes, like 36 minutes at 9:45 Eastern Standard. So it's a 9:09 Eastern Standard now. So you're talking about 36 minutes from now. That's going to be popping out. They're all low in consideration, but when you have the unemployment number drop the way the ADP did, is going to be a little bit more issues to be discussed. Not like as if anybody wants to discuss them, but it's part of that fact-checked universe where people just kind of try to align some direction, some place, so forth and so on. All right, let's see, what else do we got going on here? Should we take a look at some headlines? Let's see, what do we have? Well, you can't even see that up there, so let's make sure you can see that. Right there, and that's the S&P 500 on a very short term, 600 and some odd tick chart, and you can see it's staying steady but sideways at the moment. It has no real direction. Like I said, I imagine in about another 20 minutes we'll start to see some action. Most of the world markets, I think, were up, except for like Hong Kong And I'm not even sure what they're doing with the DAX and so forth. Maybe we'll take a quick look at that, the DAX and the FTSE, see where they are with that this morning. There we go. And the pre-markets, what we're looking at is is the Dow down 133 points? I guess it could be. We're starting to see a little bit more escalation on it. Yeah, 135 points now. And it's on an uptick. So it was down almost 140. We're looking at, let's see. Yeah, so Hang Seng was up, and Nikkei was down, and Singapore Straits Times was up, and Aussie's up, Australian's index, and the Shanghai are up. And then FTSE is up in Europe, or in England. DAX is up in Europe. CAC 40 is up. And AEX and STOXX, STOXX, they're all up. They're doing a little buying in here. I guess it's an interpretation that rates will go down. I don't know. You know, the fundamentals don't really make any sense anymore, so it's really hard to try to interpret what they think those things are going to do. And they're showing gas. Was it unleaded? You know, gasoline. Was it? They call it gas oil. You know, for the automobiles in Europe. So we're looking at $1.50 down there. We're looking at $17 up in gold, and we're looking at 40 cents, almost 41 cents in silver. So they're doing some nibbling away there. And obviously we just showed you the natural gas doing just fine, 16 weeks in a weekly buy, and trying to find a way to climb up in there again today. Let's see, what else can we talk about when it comes to the world here? VIX is showing some life. Let's go take a look at VIX. There it is right there. Showing a little life in there. Look at that. It's so tight. This thing is so tight. This thing gets to 21, and yeah, we're going to be in a daily and a weekly buy probably. I mean, really. Is it 21? Let's just double check that number. But no, I think it's more like 22. But either way, it's showing lots of firmness. No, 21 will be up because it's trading at 18.83 right now. So yeah. I mean, if it gets up to 20 or 20 and a half, the 21, it should start to pull everything up. We'll see the stock indices should get nervous and go down. They are down now. Dow's down 141, of course, as you can see on the third screen there, or third chart. Now 143. Nasdaq, or the Tech 100, down 23, and the S&P 500 almost down 17. So we're seeing some selling. Yesterday they had a very firm day, so we'll have to see what they do with that. What to do, what to do, what to do. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. Let's see. All right, so that's the stock indices around the world. And it's a quiet day where I'm not answering any questions. Excuse me. So what happens is that it forces us to explore. Now, here's the epicenter of it all, and that is the 30-year bond. Boy, I heard Jamie Dimon this morning say, we're not buying 10-year bonds. We're facilitating it for our clients, but we're not putting it in our portfolio. Of course not. Why would they? I mean, you're talking about something yielding a little better than 1%. Where's it going to go? 7/8? 3/4? I mean, and also if the inflation thing really gets freaky, bond markets move incredibly fast. So the last thing they need to do is be trapped in some product. Hopefully they have an options desk still alive that they can hedge off their risk, but those trading desks are thinner and thinner and less and less. And so what we're looking at here now, let's take a look at it. It is the 30-year right there. You see it's playing up to the highs. What we had back, it's about 15, 20 days ago, back on the 20th of July. Yes, traders, we are through July. We are into August, heading for the last solid part of the summer months. No wonder we're all quiet here. And let's see, what else do we got going on here? We got the 30-year doing this, and we've got the 10-year doing this also, even higher. I don't even know what the yield is like. Let me see if we can find what that yield is. It must be like 112 or 111 again. And the yield on the 10-year is 113.6. That's what that is, 113.6. Which seems a little odd because they're saying it's unchanged, and we can see that the futures contract is way higher than yesterday. So I guess these are like delayed quotes, and the 30-year is yielding 1.818, or basically 1.82. Not much, a lot. You got to be, you got to when you deal with these type of products, you got to have a collar on. I mean, we've seen bonds go nuts. I mean, they can drop like a rock, out of the sky, because there's no book. And I guess you could say the biggest book of all we've been having of late has been the central bank. The Federal Reserve is buying, there's trillions invested by the central banks. They're buying. I mean, Jamie Dimon mentioned that, the chairman of JPM this morning, mentioned the fact that they're just not willing to back away. They're going to fight this battle to the end. And you don't know, more than likely it's all led by the Fed to begin with. So if the Fed is telling you, look, you got to be long, or look, you got to be short, more than likely you're dealing with, a couple million, or 400 or 500, I guess like 4 or 5 million by the Federal Reserve overnight for free. You'll probably just say, okay, yeah, sure. Free money, why not? As long as you keep on giving us free money and we can make some profits. Since I saw another headline, was it Jamie Dimon said that, I watched a live interview of him this morning, but Jamie Dimon said that, banks are dying to get back into the banking business, lending money, credit cards, the whole bit. And so that is really where we are now, is that the banking system is begging to get back into the game again. And we'll see some type of evolution because of the strange laws that have been passed against them. But it's just that is the name of the game at the moment. So when you see, like here, the 10-year note, or 10-year bond, you can call it either one, that's where they kind of change the names. It's moving up. So obviously the Federal Reserve is unabashful. In other words, they're willing to just keep on doing this until someone smacks their hands. And right now, no one's going to smack their hands. All right. Let's see. Where do we head from there? No messages at all. It's just a quiet day. I'm going to have to do that Silent Good Doolittle, or whatever her name was. All right. Let's see. Where do we go from here? There is let's see, that's the 10-year. And we looked at the 30-year. Oh, let's take a look at platinum. I meant to do that in the metals complex look. I did look at palladium. It's fighting to get into a weekly buy, just like copper is, platinum is trying to do the same thing right now. You see it right there on the edge. At the same time, you can see the daily is pressing down. So it's like a real trapped situation there. No one really wants to make any real clear directions right now. The markets are swinging loose back and forth, and there's not much to be said more than that. All right. Let's go to the other metal, and that's palladium. You can see there, we never made it to that 35. I remember getting into the weekly sell and saying that don't be too confident about 30. They were talking about buying the dips. I said, don't buy dips. We're in a weekly sell. Let it do its thing, but don't be artificially long unless you have an exit, like a fast exit. Don't give up profits. And so that's where we are with the palladium. You can see it must be like an industrial thing. We're seeing copper not really moving and it's down, and we see palladium. We we see a difference in the platinum that's been reduced in size. So no real surprises there at all. Alrighty. So we've seen all of the metal complex now totally. I'm just going to take a quick look at gold. Look at that thing climb. 3 days in a buy, it just heading there. Let's see what the silver looks like. There it is. Trying again, you can see where we are. Minus 0.02. That's what that is. Wow. Just on that edge. Everything's on an edge. And again, you know, we're in the middle of the summer, so there's not a lot of clarity and direction on anything at this point. Let's see now. Just checking something else. Let's see. All right. So where do we drift from here? All the metals have been taken care of. All the stock indices have been taken care of. All the energies have been taken care of. Maybe take a look at a couple of the stocks. Anybody care to see some of the stocks? Or currency? We can do a currency. Matter of fact, what did we title this one today? It's been such a slow, steady, dead summer. I guess we could say, you know, yesterday we labeled it, I think we labeled it as silver and GBP or something like that. Or was it the Swiss one? But I think today we might label this as gold and oil, because they're both telling a story and not everybody is picking up on it. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably label this webinar as gold and oil, because we really have looked at those products. And at the same time, you know, we take into total consideration the idea that the Fed is involved in those products. All right. Let's see what the Apple is doing right there. That's the, now that's curious. This was minus this morning. Let's give that a flash there. And the weekly is dipping even more, but this was minus. So well, let's go over to, there's the Apple. You see the Apple's not running away. It's kind of holding up firm there. Well, pretty much unchanged from yesterday. Let's see, it closed yesterday at 47.36, and we're at 22. So we're just 14 cents down. I see a high of 148.04 today. Is that right? No, that's yesterday. And Amazon I saw getting some life in it also. Right there. It's trying to climb into the buy today. You see that right there. The weekly seems to be holding down. So this is not going to exactly be some type of horse race or anything like that. It's just that the pressure is, at this point in time, really pressing down on the stocks themselves, but the individual stocks, we're seeing some, bottom fishing. People see this and they go, well, let's see, the stock indices may be the last shoe to drop. Let's race ahead. Let's buy the stocks individually. And that's what we're seeing there right now. All right. And then we were, what we did is, I'm sure you do remember once I mentioned it, the paper metals have been very impressive. So in other words, GDX in a buy, a weekly buy last week, daily buy 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So, going back 5, basically 11 days ago. This is trying to go into a 12th today. You can see the strength is in the paper way more. And it's SLV. Let's take a look at the SLV. That's the paper silver right there. Same situation. You can see it's at the highs of the day there. And that's today, of course. And you can see we are fighting to be in a weekly, whereas when we look at the futures contract, right there, there's the silver, you see it's battling right there. Let's give it a refresh. But you see that it's battling, trying to get into the buy, but it's not there yet. So the paper metals, products are much better than the spot ones. Spot ones are short-lived, and they get pressure from the Federal Reserve, and the paper ones kind of get excited, run up a little bit, give you a nice little move, and then they back off, and you feel like you're stuck in neutral. But that is truly what is going on nowadays with the metals complex. The paper metals, the ETFs, they are doing a fine job of holding up the market the way they do. Their market, that is, not the spot. The spot seems to have no real clarity whatsoever. It seems like it's trapped in a situation where it's going nowhere slowly. And I guess, like I said, I don't see any real big changes coming until going into probably next year, because the House of Representatives will start to ask questions, some realistic questions. And that is one of the problems, is that we're not getting the realistic questions whatsoever. So now we'll do a title, and let's see, what will be the title? And I think that the title should be Gold and Silver. Yesterday was the Swiss was a flight to safety, and let's just go back to that chart real quick. But you can see it's definitely been a flight to safety, right there. You can see how it's pressing down. So that means the dollar is getting weaker, and the Swiss is being stronger. So I guess that's what we're going to do, is we're going to go with oil and gas. Oil and gold, that's what it is, gold. And that is really the title today. Alrighty, traders, I guess we've had enough fun. We will catch you all tomorrow on the day before TGIF. So this is Doc from North America saying arrivederci, and we will see you all on the flip side. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you, to all our trading friends. Thank you, traders. Catch you tomorrow. Good night, Dukascopy.